Ferrari may have copied the exact Mercedes qualifying idea Lewis Hamilton once used to devastating effect, and if that is true, it could completely change how fast he becomes over one lap. But there is a massive problem. The available source does not reveal the system. It provides no telemetry, no technical explanation, no governing body ruling, and no proof that Ferrari copied anything at all. So either one of Formula One's most important qualifying secrets is still hidden, or a dramatic accusation has raced far ahead of the evidence. Because if Ferrari has genuinely recreated a Mercedes advantage around Hamilton's driving style, the gain could affect tire preparation, confidence, grid position, and the entire race before the lights even go out. And the detail that decides whether this is innovation, imitation, or something far more controversial has not yet been exposed. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this claim feels so important, you have to separate what Ferrari may have learned from what the source actually proves. The headline suggests Ferrari copied something from Mercedes for Lewis Hamilton, but the attached material does not explain what that something is. There is no technical description, no leaked document, no qualifying data, no regulation, no statement from Ferrari, no statement from Mercedes, and no evidence showing that Hamilton brought a specific system from one team to the other. That means the central detail remains unknown. But the idea still creates enormous attention because Hamilton spent years inside Mercedes learning exactly what a successful qualifying car feels like. He knows how the tires should respond. He knows what confidence under braking feels like. He knows how quickly a lap can disappear when the rear of the car becomes unstable. And he knows that qualifying performance is rarely produced by one dramatic button. It is normally built from several small advantages arriving at the same time: tire temperature, brake preparation, energy deployment, car balance, traffic position, driver confidence. Each one may be worth only a fraction of a second. Together, they can completely change the grid. That is why the word copied can be misleading. Ferrari would not necessarily need to reproduce an entire Mercedes system. It could study a principle. It could change a preparation method. It could adjust the way Hamilton builds temperature before a flying lap. Or it could simply use his experience to understand what the car has been missing. Those possibilities are very different from copying confidential technology. And the source does not tell us which one, if any, actually happened. That distinction matters. A driver is allowed to remember how a car felt. Hamilton can explain what gave him confidence at Mercedes. He can describe whether the front responded immediately. He can tell Ferrari if the rear remained calm during the final moments of braking. He can explain whether the tires felt ready at the beginning of the lap or only became effective near the end. That kind of feedback is not a secret device. It is part of his job. But Ferrari still has to turn those sensations into engineering decisions. And that is where the real challenge begins. Imagine asking someone to rebuild a chair after sitting in it once. They may remember whether it felt soft, firm, high, or low. But they would not automatically know the exact materials, measurements, or construction method. Hamilton can describe the result. Ferrari's engineers have to create their own path toward it. That is why experience can influence development without proving that anything was copied. And this may be the first major clue behind the headline. Ferrari may not be chasing a Mercedes component. It may be chasing a Mercedes feeling. A car that gives Hamilton confidence immediately. A car that prepares its tires predictably. A car that allows him to attack the first braking zone without hesitation. That sounds simple. In Formula One, it is extremely difficult. Qualifying tires operate inside a narrow temperature window. Too cold, and the grip is missing. Too hot, and the tire begins losing performance before the lap is complete. The driver has to prepare the rubber carefully. The brakes create heat. That heat can influence the wheel and tire. The car has to move quickly enough to build energy, but not so aggressively that the tires are damaged before the flying lap begins. It is like warming bread in an oven. Take it out too early and the center remains cold. Leave it too long and the outside burns. The correct result exists inside a very small window. Qualifying preparation works in the same way. And Hamilton's Mercedes years may have taught him exactly how valuable that window can be. If Ferrari has changed its procedures around his feedback, the improvement could look dramatic. The car may suddenly feel sharper at the beginning of the lap. The front tires may respond earlier. The rear may remain more stable. Hamilton may commit sooner. And once he commits sooner, the entire lap begins changing. A cleaner first corner creates a stronger second corner. A stronger second corner improves the next acceleration zone. The advantage grows. But none of this proves Ferrari copied a Mercedes weapon. It only explains why the allegation sounds believable. Hamilton has experience. Ferrari wants qualifying performance. Mercedes has a history of producing strong cars. People connect those facts. Then the word secret turns a normal development process into something far more controversial. That is where caution becomes essential. Because a similar result does not prove a similar method. Two teams can solve the same problem in different ways. Ferrari may change suspension behavior. Mercedes may have used tire preparation. Ferrari may adjust energy delivery. Mercedes may have relied on aerodynamic balance. Both cars can become faster over one lap. The stopwatch cannot reveal which path created the gain. That is why real evidence would need to go much deeper. It would need to identify the alleged system. It would need to explain how Mercedes used it. It would need to show how Ferrari recreated it. And it would need to prove that the connection came through more than ordinary driver feedback and observation. The source does not provide any of that. So the honest position remains clear. Ferrari has not been proven to have copied Mercedes. Hamilton has not been proven to have transferred anything improper. And no illegal system has been identified. But the pressure created by the accusation could still become real. Rival teams may begin watching Ferrari more closely. They may compare qualifying runs. They may examine tire preparation. They may study when Hamilton gains time during the lap. Does the improvement appear in the first sector? Does it grow after the tires have been loaded through several corners? Does the car become stronger at the end of the straight? Or does the advantage appear under braking? Each pattern could suggest a different explanation. And this is where Ferrari's performance would begin creating clues. If Hamilton improves while his teammate does not, people may focus on driver-specific preparation. If both Ferrari cars improve, the focus may move toward the machine. If the gain appears only in cool conditions, tire temperature may be central. If it appears at every circuit, the explanation may be broader. But even then, patterns are not proof. They only tell rivals where to look. And Formula One teams are extremely good at looking. They analyze onboard footage. They study steering movement. They compare acceleration. They watch how the car behaves before the flying lap begins. They notice whether the driver is pushing hard on the preparation lap or protecting the tires. They compare the first qualifying run with the final one. Nothing is ignored. That constant observation is normal. It is how development spreads across the grid. One team finds an advantage. Another team studies the effect. Then several teams create their own versions. This is why Formula One cars often begin looking more similar over time. Not because every team is stealing, because successful ideas become visible. The rules allow observation. The challenge is turning observation into a legal design. And Ferrari has one extra source of information: Hamilton himself. Again, that does not mean confidential knowledge. It means experience. He can tell Ferrari what he expects from a qualifying car. He can describe how quickly the balance should build. He can explain whether the car gives him confidence to attack immediately or forces him to wait. That feedback can change development priorities. And priorities can change everything. A team may have spent months chasing more peak downforce. Hamilton may tell them that predictability matters more. Engineers may have focused on maximum corner speed. He may explain that the car loses too much confidence during braking. Ferrari may then redirect its work. The final design may look like a technical breakthrough. The real breakthrough may have started with a conversation. That is the deeper possibility behind the headline. Not that Ferrari copied one secret weapon. That Ferrari learned how to use Hamilton's understanding of Mercedes-level preparation. And if that understanding helps the team organize its own systems more effectively, the gain could affect much more than qualifying. A better starting position changes the entire race. The driver faces less traffic. The tires remain cleaner. The strategy becomes more flexible. The risk of first-lap contact may fall. The team can control its own pace instead of reacting to slower cars ahead. One improvement on Saturday can reshape Sunday. That is why qualifying matters so much. It is not only about one fast lap. It is about controlling what happens next. But there is still a serious danger for Ferrari. Once people believe the team has copied Mercedes, every improvement becomes suspicious. Hamilton gains 2 positions, and the accusation returns. Ferrari qualifies strongly, and people search for the hidden method. The car behaves differently, and rivals demand clarification. That pressure can become distracting. The team may feel forced to explain a system it has never publicly confirmed. Hamilton may face questions about knowledge he has not been shown to have transferred. And the story may become larger than the evidence. This is how perception can outrun reality. A headline introduces a possibility. The possibility is repeated. Then repetition begins sounding like confirmation. That is why the missing technical detail remains so important. Without it, nobody can determine whether Ferrari copied a legal principle, developed an original solution, changed a routine around Hamilton's feedback, or did nothing unusual at all. And that is the question the next part of this story must answer. Not whether Ferrari became faster, but whether there is any specific Mercedes idea inside that improvement and whether anyone can actually prove it. And this is where the story becomes even more complicated, because the moment Ferrari appears to improve, the focus moves away from the lap time and toward the process behind it. People begin asking what changed. Was it the tires? Was it the preparation lap? Was it the way Hamilton built brake temperature? Was it a change in energy deployment? Was it a new setup direction? Or was it something Ferrari learned from Mercedes? The attached source does not answer any of those questions. It does not identify a system. It does not explain a procedure. It does not reveal technical data. And it does not prove that Ferrari copied anything. But the accusation still creates pressure, because Formula One teams rarely ignore a rival that suddenly becomes stronger over one lap. They look for patterns. They compare behavior. They study where the time appears. And if the gain seems too specific, too repeatable, or too closely linked to one driver, the questions become harder to dismiss. This is where Hamilton's role becomes especially important. Not because there is proof he transferred a secret. There is not. But because he understands what elite qualifying preparation feels like. That experience can shape Ferrari's decisions. Hamilton can tell the engineers whether the front tires are ready early enough. He can explain whether the rear becomes unstable when he attacks the brakes. He can describe whether the car gives him confidence at the beginning of the lap or only begins working after several corners. Those details may sound small. They are not. A qualifying lap can be lost before the first corner. If the tires are too cold, the driver hesitates. If the brakes are not prepared correctly, the car feels uncertain. If the balance changes unexpectedly, confidence disappears. And once the opening corner is compromised, the rest of the lap becomes a recovery attempt. That is why the preparation phase matters so much. The flying lap may be the part everyone sees. The real work begins earlier. It begins with how the tires are warmed. how the brakes are managed, how much distance the driver leaves to the car ahead, how aggressively energy is used, how carefully the driver avoids traffic. One mistake in that sequence can destroy the entire attempt. One improvement in that sequence can make the car look transformed. And from the outside, that transformation can appear mysterious. A driver suddenly gains several tenths. The car looks sharper. The lap begins cleanly. The final sector remains strong. People immediately search for one secret explanation.